Good evening. I'd like to call the Town of Delafield Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you please call the roll.
Supervisor Mahoney-Ogden.
Present.
Supervisor Miller.
Here.
Supervisor Wolfley.
Present.
Chairman Kranick.
Present.
Supervisor Berkowitz indicated he'll be a couple minutes late.
Citizens' comments, public comments from citizens regarding items on or not on the agenda. The board may not engage in discussion with the citizens making comments. Individual presentations are limited to 3 minutes, and they should follow the rules set forth in Town Ordinance Section 2.04, paren 1, paren D of the Town Code. I do not see any citizens in the audience. I will be closing the public comment section. Next item would be approval of the March 11th, 2025 Town Board minutes.
Motion to approve minutes from March 11th, 2025.
A second.
Motion is second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Motion passes 4.
Abstain, because I wasn't there.
Motion passes 3-0 with 1 abstention from Supervisor Mahoney-Ogden. Next items would be actions on vouchers submitted for payments. Look for a motion on accounts payable and payroll.
Do we have the stop for it?
I'll make the motion. Make a motion for accounts payable for checks 68474 through 68480 and checks 68506 through 68542 in the amount of $107,126.24, and for checks numbers 68583 through 68626 in the amount of $442,954.60, and for payrolls dated March 28th in the amount of $16,299.74, and payroll dated April 11th in the amount of $16,823.64.
Second.
Motion is second to approve payment. Want to see why that number is bigger than normally is. Looks like it's tax payments to the school districts, technical college, and to the county. So I have a motion, a second on the floor to approve accounts payable and payroll. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Motion passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda would be a presentation from Kerber Rose regarding the 2024 audit. We're fortunate to have our auditor here this evening. Our presentation. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me tonight. My name is David Minch. I'm one of the government audit shareholders at Kerber Rose. And tonight we're going to go through at a high level the financial highlights for the year ended December 31st, 2024. First and foremost, I just wanted to acknowledge all the work that Michelle, and I can't remember, Karen did to prepare for the audit. Obviously, there's some turnover with Michelle joining. Really picking up at the end of the year, getting through everything for us for the financial statement audit. So this is our first year working with the town, and it went very seamless from our standpoint. So oftentimes when you switch auditors, you're getting used to ways that, the new auditor might want things done or the way that they look at things. But working with Michelle went very seamless. They provided everything. The audit is a lot of one-time-a-year work, so she worked through that very quickly and efficiently from our standpoint. So tonight we're going to go through the 2 documents that we issue at the conclusion of all of our audits. The first one being the annual financial report. The first page, let's see if this works. The first page that we're going to look at is the independent auditor's report. Essentially, this is why the town has an audit done, and that is to receive an opinion on your financial statements. Our opinion is listed on the in the second paragraph on this page. It states that in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town. as of December 31st, 2024. So in other words, this is a clean or unmodified opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can provide on a set of financial statements. So very positive aspect for the town to receive a clean opinion on your financial statements. Did you have a question?
We don't have this in our packet, correct?
I had sent it out digitally,
Okay.
and wasn't sure if anybody wanted it printed.
Wanted it to just, okay, so,
Yeah.
all right, we'll just get a little
Yeah,
closer.
so if you guys review this, look it over after this meeting, and you have any questions, feel free to get your questions over to Michelle. I'll be happy to answer anything in greater detail. The next page that we're going to look at is the balance sheet for the governmental funds of the town. We have the general fund list, the debt service fund, and then the non-major funds in the aggregate. A couple things that I just wanted to point out here. The total fund balance for the general fund ended up at about 2.5 million at December 31st, with overall combined fund balance approximately 2.6.
Can I ask you a favor?
Yes,
Can you please make it a little bigger for me?
sure, yeah.
Thank you.
On the bottom right
on the
there.
bottom.
Oh,
Right,
right
yeah.
here, sorry. No. I've been scrolling through, yeah, I can get rid of them though, I know where I'm going here. Okay,
Much better, thank you.
I can't see it on my computer screen, so I'm navigating from up here, so bear with me a second.
Yeah.
All right, so the largest component of the general fund's total fund balance is the unassigned portion. This is really the operating reserves that the town has built up to cash flow itself throughout the year. And oftentimes, as auditors, we get asked, how do we compare to other organizations, other towns, other villages, what have you? And it's really tough to answer that question because although you provide the same sort of general core services as every other municipality, the way that you carry out your operations is substantially different from every other town. And it's not just you, it's every town is different. Some of them will issue debt a lot more often, others will build up fund balance and use fund balance to, do capital projects. But the one thing that we can do to really gauge the health of the general fund is look at the total unassigned fund balance compared to the current year expenditures. This year, the current year general fund expenditures was approximately 4.9 million. So if we take that 1.9 divided by the 4.9, that's roughly 38.5%. And from our standpoint, we'd like to see that unassigned fund balance anywhere between 30 and 40%. So I think you're well within an acceptable range. This gives you a cushion, one, to cash flow, and then two, we're still in a high inflationary period where, if you go out for bid for certain things or, your reoccurring services tend to increase annually. This allows you to carry out those existing services while still having cash available to carry on those operations. Another very positive aspect of the general fund is the assigned portion. And I took a snip of the budget here and place it down below just so you can see at the end of the year what what that specific dollar amount, the $566,000, was assigned for. So there's various things that the board has worked on and evaluated and said we need money in the future for these specific projects. So by government accounting standards, that amount is considered an assigned fund balance. So there's approximately $566,000 set aside for future needs. So again, I think this is another very positive aspect when you're going to have these costs coming up in the future that you can essentially earmark that money for future use. All right. Next page we'll look at is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance for the governmental funds, or in other words, your income statement. To reiterate what I just talked about, the general fund had a very positive operating year. The total change in fund balance was an increase of approximately $280,000 this year. The town did issue debt to approximately $250,000, largely for some capital-related projects that occurred during the year. And then overall fund balance increased approximately $272,000. And so in those non-major funds, there was very little activity that occurred in your impact fees and your ARPA funds. So pretty consistent in those funds, but again, just to reiterate, there's a very strong operating year for the town. Now I'm going to flip ahead to one of the footnotes here. past it. One thing I always like to comment on is what your legal margin for new indebtedness is. In the state of Wisconsin, you're authorized to issue general obligation debt up to 5% of your equalized valuation, which is determined by the Department of Revenue. And so that calculation means that the town could incur approximately $124 million in general outstanding debt. At December 31st, there was just over 3.1 million issued or outstanding, which means the legal margin for new indebtedness is approximately 121 million. So I think, again, looking at your very low outstanding general obligation debt compared to what you're allowed to have is another very positive aspect of the town to be able to conduct its operations without a significant debt load annually. All right. The last page that I just wanted to cover, and this is one I think of the more important pages within the annual financial report, is the budget to actual for your general fund. This really paints the picture of how did we end up versus how we plan to end up. And as we scroll down here, we're a little bit under budget, meaning that we projected a increase in fund balance and came in slightly under. But again, to have an increase in fund balance of approximately $280,000, almost a 10% increase this year is a very positive aspect. There's a couple differences I just wanted to point out. Capital outlay here, this is over budget. Some of this could be, when you put your budget together, included in capital works. But from financial statement reporting purposes, we reclass that or group that in a capital outlay account. This is largely driven by the way that we assist the town with the preparation of the Department of Revenue's Form C, to make sure that we get those accounts grouped on an aidable line, so that way you can maximize your general transportation aid and a few other aids that factors into. That is the last page I was going to cover in the annual financial report. Did anybody have any questions on that?
So what you're saying is the town's credit score is pretty good?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. Yep. So if you were to go out, just say if you were to issue actually general obligation debt, and go out for a ratings call, like through Moody's or Ellers or someone like that, the fact that you haven't done that before, probably wouldn't receive a AA, but I would think for sure an A rating, just given how you're functioning. So, but yeah, obviously you guys do a great job managing expenditures, and when you're preparing a budget, being very conservative with your revenues, that you can increase fund balance this year is a really great thing. A lot of towns in the state just simply weren't able to do that, and we've seen a lot of decreases in overall fund balance this year just because costs of everything are increasing, and as you're well aware, the revenues are pretty stagnant for every municipality. So
You said you aim to see a 30 to 40% number there.
Yep.
Is there a number that's too high? Right, so you start getting into like,
Well,
50%, is that, a problem, or is,
Well, so I don't think it's a problem, but again, it's, looking at yourselves, we're being stewards of the public's money, right? And so oftentimes if that increases, I always ask, well, why is that? And so, what I think, you guys know that you're gonna have future capital needs, and so the fact that you're already earmarking or assigning various components of that for future years, I would advocate that you go that route as opposed to really increasing that unassigned fund balance to 50%. If it was a planned increase because, hey, we know in 2 years we're gonna do a bunch of road work and we'd rather not issue debt, we'd rather accumulate resources, I think that's perfectly acceptable as long as you can explain that.
so what you're saying is even when you have that foreseen capital expenditure, even if it's 2, 3, 5 years out, you can earmark it, assign it, and
Absolutely.
grow it, and now that doesn't count to that calculation.
Correct, yep,
Okay.
because it would move, I can go back to that page to show.
Yeah, no, that's
So like we did for the reval and the truck,
Yep.
and we got the contingency fund for the building maintenance for this building.
Correct. Yep, because otherwise that sits there, and, I've had a lot of various towns reach out saying, citizens are concerned our fund balance is increasing 60, 70%. And, there's been a lot of turnover across the state on the board level, and so, doing some education with them that, hey, every 2 to 3 years, you do road projects where you're gonna build that up to maybe 70, 80%, and then every 3 years, that drops down to 20%, right? So a lot of places just simply don't issue debt. They save on the front end and then spend. You guys do a balance, right? Sometimes you issue debt, other times you're accumulating resources and assigning them. So I think that's a very positive thing, that when you can, save up those funds for those needs, I mean, it just really saves the town money, right? Not paying interest in the long run, so, yep. But yeah, I mean, I think you could grow that a little bit. I'd just be hesitant, there isn't anything by statute or government accounting standards that says this is too high. But again, it's just the fact of you're a steward of the public's money, we want to make sure that we're spending the money that we intend to spend, so. Any additional questions?
What about like controls? I mean, we're obviously a small office,
Yep.
so I know that normally there's a footnote about.
Yeah, so I'm going to get to that actually right now. So the other document that we issue is the management communication letter. And so for the most part, this letter just recaps how the audit went. But in it, it does include, and I can make this bigger here again, this does include our internal control over financial reporting paragraphs in here. And so it's important to understand that as auditors, we're not required to audit your internal controls, but we take them into account while we're planning and performing the audit. And then anytime we identify an issue, we evaluate it to see if it meets the definition of a material weakness, a significant deficiency, or simply another matter. There's a couple findings to note this year, and I will just, whoops, too far. I do just want to comment on, anytime there's a first-year audit, a lot of the time, oh, goodness, a lot of time is spent really just understanding what, oh, come on here. Understanding the operations and, really tying out all the balances, make sure that, we have the correct support from a materiality standpoint on the financial statements. And so when we were having discussions throughout the audit with Michelle, typically, it's the second year where we take a deeper dive into that. I can assure you that nothing from our perspective stood out as alarming from a process standpoint, but there is one item, the segregation of duties, that we'll comment on. But there were certain things that we, as we were looking through the balances, and obviously this was a great exercise for Michelle too, being new, there were, I think it was some deposits that were up that we had in the balance sheet, wasn't it? There's a couple liability accounts that we weren't sure what they were, and I know you looked into them. They were relatively material. I can't remember what. I think so, yeah. So just things like that, it really, forced Michelle to understand what they are, look at them, make sure that we, what we have is correct. So I think that was a really great exercise this year for both of us. But we do have 3 findings this year. The first one is a material weakness, and this is the material audit adjustment finding. Essentially, you have an audit done to make sure that your financial statements are prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And as part of that, when we find transactions, we need to adjust to make sure that it is correct. This is a pretty common finding amongst most municipalities and school districts that we work with. And anytime you have a new auditor come in, I think on the 10 new municipalities I'm working with this year, all of them are receiving a material account adjustment finding. And especially when there's turnover on your side too. Obviously Michelle is going to do things differently than the previous administrator. And so this is really just to let you guys know that there were adjustments posted throughout the audit. I'd be happy to work through those with Michelle, help her gain an understanding of them so that, going forward at the end of the year, she can look at them, reconcile things as she needs to. But most of those adjustments were really your year-end accruals related to payables, receivables. I do believe they are attached to this letter. I could look at them here. But nothing, again, that was to the tune of, cash wasn't reconciled and we had to post an adjustment to cash for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's really just year-end timing things to make sure that it's presented in accordance with GAAP, so. There's 2 other findings that we consider to be significant deficiencies. The first one is the segregation of duties finding. And this is kind of going off of the comment that you just had that you're a smaller entity. And so I would say that, we work with approximately 150 municipalities and almost 60 school districts in the state of Wisconsin. I would say that 95% of those entities receive the segregation of duties finding. And that's simply due to the number of individuals, Karen and Michelle, who have access to all of the functions of the accounting, payroll, receipting process. And so, they're segregating duties as much as possible, meaning somebody's doing one thing, somebody's doing the next thing. But unfortunately, it really comes down to our evaluation that if, for example, Michelle wanted to post a fraudulent journal entry, could she conceal that and Karen would have knowledge? Would the board have knowledge if they saw something? And so, unfortunately, there's just really no good way to properly segregate all the duties, but I do like to remind each and every one of you at the front of the table here, that you do play an important role in the control function of the town. The fact that you guys, I thought it was really great that you're listing out the beginning and the ending check number that you're approving. You're noting the dollar amounts. You question why it was so much higher. I think that is a very good thing to do. A lot of town boards, when I sit through to the consent agenda, they'll just rubber stamp those listings, those receipt listings. I very rarely do I see anybody ask questions. So, just remain diligent, ask questions, ask for further guidance if something seems off, such as you did right there. That is a really good mitigating control. So if there was, even a human error, right? We don't find a lot of fraud. We find more just human error. The fact that you're diligent and doing a thorough review catches a lot of that and safeguards the town. So I would continue to do that, asking, budget to actual questions where we are throughout the year, analyzing bank balances where we are periodically throughout the year. That is another really great thing to do, just to kind of compare month over month, where are we? So, it's going to be pretty consistent for the most part. If you look at it, from current year to compared to prior year, there shouldn't be too much variation. Your tax payments are going to go out to the other taxing jurisdictions in the same month every year. You're going to receive your county settlements for the most part every year. Any other revenue might change a little bit, but that's really not your significant revenue streams that would fluctuate cash that significantly. So. And then the last finding is the financial reporting finding. And again, this is a finding I would say that probably 95% of all governments that we work with receive. And this, you're receiving this finding due to the fact that standards changed about 10 years ago that said you as management are responsible for compiling that annual financial report that we just went through. And so if you're not, you got really two options. You can outsource that to a third party who could then provide it to us, or contract with your auditors, knowing that you're going to receive this finding. So this is more or less just a reminder that you're responsible for the fair presentation of that, but you're contracting with us to assist with the preparation. All of the numbers in there, those are your numbers. We're not making anything up, in regards to what we think it should be. This is all data that's provided by Michelle, but, you're just contracting with us to make sure that you're presenting it in accordance with GAAP or generally accepted accounting principles. Any additional questions?
Anything else from them? Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Next item would be attached is the Lake Country Fire and Rescue February report. If anybody has any questions, let us know and we can get them to Chief Fenning, but they're doing a great job as far as I know. They had a big win last night in the town of Genesee, but so doing a good job there. Other item for communication is the attached Waukesha County Sheriff's report. Sheriff's Department has anything to add that they're welcome to, but they're doing a great job. Thank you for their support. Item D in communications. Highway 83 is going to be resurfaced and there's going to be some closures and some resurfacing work starting here. I think if we've driven 83, you see the big sign saying it's going to be closed and work starting. What that means for the town of Delafield and town residents is the GPS is probably going to take more people down Maple Avenue than expected. And I know a big concern for me is the detour route for the business park is they're going to take all the truck traffic in front of my house down KE. So hopefully our law enforcement folks in the back can help with extra patrols and make sure people are following all traffic rules and regulations. And just want to let town residents know that that's happening. And there's a link on the website to find out more about that. Next item would be the April 2025 election recap. I'll turn it over to our clerk, and then I'll add my comment.
I included the statistics in the memo, just so that you all are aware, the Heartland Lakeside School District is going to be undergoing a recount on Thursday. I'm not sure if they're going to need any of our poll workers' assistance, but I'll try and keep you guys informed if you'd like to know what the happenings are, if I can get the information from their clerk.
And that's because there was a 10-vote difference between the winner and the
Yeah,
loser?
so they were, vote for three in their particular contest. They had 6 people running. The first and second were, ahead of the team, so to speak, but there are at least 2 people that are going to be vying for that third spot.
Exciting. I just want to thank all the poll workers and our clerk for all the hard work that they did. It was a high turnout election, and I just want to thank the electors for re-electing me, even though I ran unopposed, but I got the most votes I've ever gotten at running, so that's exciting, and congratulations to Supervisor Merholgagen and Supervisor Wolfley for their re-elections.
Thank you.
Next item, unfinished business. Review of the town elevator proposals discussed during the February 11th, 2025 meeting.
Okay, so for a recap on the elevator, we talked about the cost that we were spending with Schindler and how we could either spend money on just replacing the circuit board, which was not covered under our current contract, or we could make our contract better, essentially, so that things like the circuit board would be covered. The elevator is 11 years old. We don't have a whole lot of traffic on the elevator, so I was looking for other ways that we could potentially save on something we don't particularly use a lot. Some of the things you guys asked me to do is to reach out to other elevator companies to see what they would be able to do for us. Otis had indicated that they don't have anybody that's qualified at this point in time to fix Schindler elevators, so they said they would not be able to give me any sort of a quote. And Cone said that they would be able to give me a quote on there. Their quote is included, but that there would be an upcharge on certain parts because Schindler is the only part that can be used in the elevator, and then they charge Cone an upcharge on the actual piece itself. I did also include information from the state about if we were to abandon what's the term now?
Basically put out of service.
Yes, put it out of service, and what it would require to do that. And they said it's not uncommon, but and there are certain guidelines that they would like us to follow and get an inspection. They also indicated that it would not be difficult to turn it back on, essentially. And Schindler also indicated that whatever problems we would have when we turned it off would just have to be fixed when we turned it back on. So I'm still looking for some sort of direction as to if you want me to just get the circuit board, stay with Schindler and upgrade their contract, move to Cone instead of Schindler, or to decommission the elevator.
So when we decommission the elevator, would we be basically shutting off the stair access also at the same
Correct.
time?
Yep. We would still have access, in there for any pipes and things like that, but we would block it off upstairs so that the fire department doesn't need to have access to the pipes and so forth because they don't do the maintenance on the building.
Sure.
So we would close both elevator, drywall it off, and then drywall the stairs up top, and then make the downstairs door maintenance only and keep it locked.
So then if the fire department has a call to here,
You just go around.
go around.
Yeah.
Is that that's the negative? I mean,
Right.
I recognize that we don't have an elevator.
Right.
But that's the main use right now, and that doesn't happen that often.
Correct.
And then, so then we basically, any of our contracts become null and void, and we just don't do anything. We're basically have nothing
Right.
until we want to resurrect. So the good news was we can resurrect and not create more problems. Obviously, I'm sure there'll be inflation, things will cost more, but we just handle it when, if we all of a sudden decide we need to do it, get another elevator.
Sure, there'll be additional costs to get it going. You know, things aren't just going to work.
Well, that's what,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
but
Right.
it's not, it doesn't make it worse. It's not like, oh, if you don't fix it now, it's gonna deteriorate in a few
No,
years.
it's
Well, if
gonna-
you're not
it
using
is going to
a-
deteriorate.
An elevator, it will deteriorate
It will
over time, for
deteriorate
sure.
without use. It's
I'm not
meant to be
comfortable.
used.
I'm not comfortable shutting it down. I think this building was designed with all the different amenities, including an elevator, and I think we should keep it in service.
Well, and plus, if we got to drywall off and frame out, I mean,
Staff
I don't
would
know
do that.
exactly how large? Oh, all right.
And it would be, 3 door widths. So the estimated cost would be about $200.
My gut feeling is we're not using it, it's an expense we don't need, it's not gonna, my gut feeling is abandon it. Just to give you I know we're not voting, but that just, especially hearing that, it's not like we're ripping it out. Yes, we'll have to put money into it if we resurrect it, but we're not like ripping out the guts. We're gonna have to spend money regardless, and we're gonna have to spend money regardless, and we don't use it very much. It just doesn't seem to me to be a good use of money, especially that we kind of have a way around it, which I thought was a creative way to look at it. So that's just, from a discussion standpoint, that's what I'm.
Well, I mean, from a discussion standpoint, it's one thing to just abandon the elevator. The elevator's not working right now. But the big thing for me is, this is a beautiful building, and, I don't know what it would, I think it would look kind of tacky with, drywall and to drywall the elevator off and drywall, and then, so the elevator's like the one issue. The second issue is just the stair access between the fire department and down here. I understand that when this building was built, we were all one entity, and that's why the state forced our hand to put the elevator in. The elevator was, they fought tooth and nail to not put that elevator in there, but because of the fact that we were one entity and, the state saw this as one building. But for me, the stair access between upstairs and down here is key, because if I'm having a problem, or anybody at this table or anybody in the audience is having a problem and somebody's upstairs, they're going to get down here a heck of a lot quicker if they can just take the stairs down here than having to try to come around and get in their car. And I just am concerned about the topography of, somebody getting hurt trying to come down, if they come down the hill or whatever versus, so
Well, they won't come down the hill, though. That means they're going to move an apparatus.
yeah, and that's going to take additional
Yeah.
time and.
Yeah, because I wasn't aware that we'd have to block off the stairs, too. I don't think that's a prudent way to go. When
Why do
you,
we have to again, remind me?
You have stairs in a public building, you're required to have an elevator
All
as
right,
well.
okay. Yep,
Yeah.
all right.
Oh,
I know we
they
talked
go-
about that
they
in
go
February.
together?
Okay.
Interesting.
what's the difference in monthly cost on,
I think I had the monthly costs on the second page of the memo from
yeah, I
what we
wasn't sure if there
currently
was,
have.
so there's a couple different
Yeah.
guys in here, and I just wasn't sure which one we're on and which
The
one.
original information includes the costs from Schindler.
Okay.
And then the price of cone was actually a little bit less than the Schindler current contract that we're in, but then they had indicated that it would be more for the parts. So, but I don't know what the parts would be. So like, for example, this circuit board is, I think, $3,200. It would be probably $4,200 for cone. Their contract, they say, covers more than the Schindler contract, but we can upgrade with the Schindler contract to cover more also.
And so I guess that was the question, is what's the difference in the current cost of the contract?
So we spend,
Versus
I believe, like
upgraded one.
$1,500 for the current contract, and then the new one would be $4,400, $4,500.
Okay.
But when you look at the circuit board and it's 3,200 or whatever, yeah, 3,200, that's like, you could have
Sure.
had the contract for the year at that rate.
Circuit board is a one-time.
Yeah, 'cause
They
that's-
have indicated that if they fix the circuit board, they are unsure if that's going to show them that something else is broken as well. Because once that works,
Everything's
it's like a
possible.
chain reaction type of thing.
Well, right, and that's, I mean,
Especially because it's sitting, being unused.
Correct.
fortunately,
Yes.
I'm not an elevator expert.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, I understand that statement, right? But, you know, it's one of those, that's not quite quadruple, but I mean, it's 2.5 times the contract cost. And if that happens once every 10 years, you know, okay, fine, right? You pay the bigger price and you have the smaller contract for something we barely use. If it is something, you know, that's just the piece, right? You uncork that can of worms and then you don't know how far you got to go down it to get it fixed. But I'm not really sure that taking it from a $1,500 a year contract fee to $4,400 a year.
So the $1,400, they come twice a year, and then they also do the state reporting requirement. When they came to see what was wrong with it outside of those two, they charged us $800 just to tell us that it was a bad circuit board. So I had called them and asked them to not charge us, and after a little bit of back and forth, we were able to get rid of that bill. But they said they won't get rid of it again if they have to come out more
That
than
would
twice.
be covered in the 4,400
That would
if
be
they come
covered.
out. So
Yeah.
why not start with 4,400
Right.
for year one, solve the problems, make sure the problems are under control, and then reduce
I mean, I
down
think
to a
it-
maintenance, a
yeah.
lower maintenance.
In
Yeah.
essence, this is part of the maintenance of this building,
Right.
so.
Can you again go over, I know we don't use it very much, so just, who does? I don't think I've ever
We
been.
push it and give it phantom rides so that it keeps going.
That's how it get used, so that's why, I just don't see why we would.
The fire department uses the stairs if they come down here for a meeting,
Okay.
or they do drive around because they usually have like fake bodies
Yep.
and stuff. But then, you know, we did have it open for one presidential election, but then it broke in the middle of the election, and thank God nobody got stuck in there. But then it was out of use, and we couldn't really have anybody park up top if they needed ADA accommodation.
Well, and if we're considering reducing some of our polling places, that would
Right.
be an option.
Right,
I mean, again, it just seems like a lot of money to spend for something we don't use.
right.
That's, I think the fact that you, I mean, many people can't get, many people, or organizations have to have it. But the fact that we don't have to, just go back to my whole thing, I just don't think it's necessary to keep putting money into it, because it's not gonna go away. We'll just, every year, there will be something. We have to have a contract, because that's just how it works with elevators, but there's just always gonna be something, so.
Well, there's always going to be something, but I
Right.
think that, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's $4,500, but we just had our auditor up here saying that, you know, I mean, we have, you know, cash on hand. You know, we have money earmarked for, you know, contingencies. I mean, because we knew that there may be facility things coming up with this. And I think at some point, it's kind of hypocritical with the fact that this is a public building. And if we tell other public buildings that, hey, you need to have an elevator, and they have issues, you know, that they don't have to spend the money to maintain their elevator. I think that the elevator's here, and I think we need to maintain it, and I think we need to up our Schindler contract to the Plus agreement and, you know, spend the $4,400 and get the elevator fixed. And when we all come here for meetings, we got to make sure that we push it and take it right up and down to get the use up, so.
But if we, my whole thing is, we don't use it. That's what I know we
Yeah,
have a
but
fancy building.
it's the maintenance of a building. I mean, we, not me, because I wasn't on the board at the time, but a board asked the town to build a building.
Or had to, is what we
Had
said.
to,
We didn't
sure.
have a choice. So
And,
therefore, yeah.
and, you know, I mean, like, they're still paying on it. And, you know, I think when you're talking about the difference of effectively what we're already spending in our budget, right, for elevator maintenance to increase the thing and just keep it running, it continues the value of the building that everybody in the town paid for and pays for, right? So, you know, I mean, I think when you talk about $800 service trips that we're already paying for, they're coming out twice a year, right? $800 a pop plus the $1,500-ish a year. You know, we get back to about that $4,400 approximately, cover more parts, keep the building as it was intended to be, and keep the value of the building here. I mean, you know, I don't think we're moving anytime soon, but you're just kicking a can down the road to maybe save a couple bucks that's already in the budget. So I think it's worth doing the upgraded contract and getting a couple of those service trips off the books because they'll be absorbed in the contract and maintaining certainly the stairs. If we could do just the elevator, I'd probably be a little more convinced.
Well, it'd be a different story. It would be
Yeah.
different.
If you got to block off the stairs, I think that's a non-starter.
And all I'm doing is I'm thinking if I were a townsperson and it's not a ton of money, what else could we use that money for? I just think most townspeople would say, not for an elevator that we never use. So, just my opinion, but.
Do we need to make a motion on anything, or is that?
I would love a motion
Motion
for
would be
the
great.
direction, yep.
I would motion to approve the upgraded contract with Schindler, the $4,400 proposed annual contract, and do the repairs and maintain the elevator's functionality.
A second.
Motion and a second, just to clarify, it's $4,440 annually.
$440.
Per the memo. So with that correction, there is a motion and a second on the table to approve the upgrading to the Schindler Plus agreement for that dollar amount. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 4-1. Next item, new business, item 9A, consideration of a new planning and zoning professional services agreement following the retirement of our town engineer. Anything?
With Tim leaving, R.A. Smith has been kind enough to open up their contract, which is actually the item after this one, indicating that they don't have anybody on staff that would be qualified enough to do the planning and zoning portion. When Tim was here, he kind of just learned it as he did it. Of course, he did. He's amazing. So they're going to open up the contract to remove that portion, which would allow us then to bring on a potential third party. And they have identified a third party in Amy Barrows and her team. And that is what we would be discussing tonight. You do have one of her teammates' resumes on there. There's a couple of letters of recommendation. I'm sorry, Terry didn't get those two, but if you want to share with Supervisor Miller. And we also have Amy in the audience tonight if you have any questions,
Yeah, if Amy has anything she'd like to add or say, she's welcome to come up to the podium.
or if you have any questions about the information in the memo.
No, I actually talked to Amy about this already a few years back, and then mentioned it to Dan, knowing that Tim didn't know the exact timing, so I'm pleased that this has all come full circle, because I know she does a great job. And so my only question is, because I know you're already a busy lady, and I know you've got a team, unless it's in here, do we know who's going to be our one person? Is that who
Yes.
this is who we have, okay.
Sure, if you would just come and just talk for, see, you came to the meeting, so.
Might as well, right?
So I just started my own firm a year ago. Before that, I'd worked for Waukesha County for 18 years, and then I worked for SEH for a couple of years. SEH is a firm similar to R.A. Smith. They do provide engineering, surveying, and planning services. And I actually really enjoyed working for them, but I did find that I could serve the communities that I served and provide more hours at a lower cost and do better financially for myself. So it was a win-win situation. I still have a very good working relationship with SEH. I also partner with R.A. Smith in the town of Cedarburg, so we also have a working relationship together currently. And when I went out on my own, I was a little overwhelmed my first year because there was a few retirements and planning for various communities, and I had to let go a lot of communities. So I did, have a mindset that in 2025 I was going to try to hire somebody so that when these opportunities came up, I could offer services. I would not be able to personally become the Town of Delafield planner. I currently serve the City of Delafield, the Village of Summit, and the Town of Cedarburg, and they keep me busy full-time. However, I did seek Rebecca Lado's employment, and her resume is in your packet. So she would be your primary planner if for some reason she was not available or was on vacation. I would step in and be able to cover her services. She's been working for Waukesha County for over 10 years and is very familiar with the town's code, your geography, the environment that you work in. She is the one who reviewed the new subdivision on the Thomas Farm. So she would be able to step right in with a little training from Tim on, how you file and paperwork and get ready for meetings and prepare staff reports, which we're happy to work with Tim on before she starts. She is currently employed with Waukesha County and will, if all things go well tonight, will be letting her employer know tomorrow, which is why you did not get a resume until tonight. We did just receive a contract in the town of Brookfield, so she will be serving the town of Brookfield and the town of Delafield through this year, and our contract is written to go through 2026, just because otherwise we'd be working off of a 6-month contract. So we'd like to have that security of 18 months. I feel very confident you'll be happy with Rebecca. I'm not in a position to hire somebody that I cannot trust. Her and I share very similar values, and customer service and communication are her highest priority. And if I don't know if she's been to the town of Delafield recently for any projects in a public hearing setting, but she is an excellent communicator with the public. There's a couple of references in the packet, and I know Tim has worked with Rebecca quite a bit too, so hopefully he can support her work as well. And I'll be there to support her also if there's any questions or we need to, get some help on how to handle a certain situation.
Where is your office physically based?
So I have a home office, and then I go to the town of Delafield for office hours. I have an office there, and city. Here we are. So I've got all these different. I go to the city of Delafield for office hours, and I have an office at the Village of Summit too.
Okay.
And then the town of Cedarburg, I work virtually out of my home unless I have to go there for some reason. Rebecca would be in the same situation where she'd be working from her home, unless she comes here for office hours, which she would plan on doing on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then she would be available for phone calls or emails on Fridays if needed.
I mean, I feel great about that, just based on our, my experience with working with you and knowing what you offer and bring to the table. So that makes me feel really good as a supervisor. So I'm good on that. My question more is, and that's not exactly what we're talking about, but together you two, so how about the stuff that you don't do, and we just have it in the system that just continues to get contracted? I think I read in here to R.A. Smith, and then with how it works with the budget, the big picture of it all.
So Tim had put together a list of all the items that he does outside of engineering and the IT services that R.A. Smith provides, and gave that list to Amy so she's well aware of what we would need here to make ourselves whole. So.
And in all of the other communities that I serve, we have a partnership with the engineering firm that we work for. So when it's a planning and zoning related item, we're typically going to be the coordinator, the first contact with the applicant, and then we would get that reimbursement form for the town and then start working with the engineering staff. Obviously, the engineering staff does other things for the town, but typically we would be that first contact with applicants on planning items.
You'd be the face of the town for the most part.
What's that?
You'd be the face of the town on those planning items,
On
and the air
planning
traffic
and
controller and the coordinator regarding all that stuff, so.
So basically Rebecca would be taking Tim's place in your office here,
Regarding planning items,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've missed it or it's part of the next agenda item. But so when the amended agreement with,
That's 9B is
Smith.
the amended one.
right, so I guess the question, because they kind of meld together, is with the amended agreement and your cost, I guess, what's the
Oh, I can,
That was exactly, how does this all fit into
Okay.
the big picture? Yeah. That was
I
my
can tell
question.
you, so our hourly rate is $130 an hour, and the idea would be to have office hours here, 4 hours each Monday and Wednesday, and then we would try to do as much pass-through work that's billable to applicants during those office hours to reduce the town's expense. And then there might be large projects, if there's a large subdivision where we would have to work on those outside of the office hours, but at no additional cost to the town. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that. So this kind of started knowing that I wasn't going to be able to serve you after I retire, and then we didn't have a planner in-house or an engineer that does planning, which is what I do. I'm a unicorn, I guess, or a rare commodity. And a surveyor. She just figured out that I'm a registered land surveyor too, so. But yeah. So when I looked at, we looked at a number of different partners as to where it would be best that I could make a recommendation, and Amy's firm was just fit very well because she and Rebecca both understand the town of Delafield. So I looked at the budget. So we put together an engineering budget that's basically engineering, planning, and IT. IT is kind of set aside. It's just a sum of money that is kind of through the clerk's office. So that's still there. And so basically I took out the planning portion of what we have in our budget and then kind of put in their hours. You've got 8 hours a week, I think, at $130 an hour. And basically it's even less than what I have budgeted, assuming that things go as they normally do, then they would be, the total budget that I have right now in there, that should be no more than that and probably less than that, I would say. Okay, so I think we're good. I think at the end of the year, so her budget goes through 26, our budget ends in 25, because we just have a 6-month going, because we have an annual, it renews annually, first of the year. So probably have to think about at the end of the year, okay, what really is the budget? Both the new engineer, Dave Ryder is his name, he will work with Amy and Michelle to figure out, well, where's the budget really working here? And maybe that number is going to change next year as to how we account for that or where we put it in the budget. and
But the
things
big
like that.
picture is for 25, what we've budgeted so far should be
Should be
enough to
adequate-
cover
adequate to-
this, and hopefully,
Yep.
there will be a savings.
Yep,
And if not, we'll find you in retirement.
Yeah.
you can find me.
He costs more than we do,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah,
Perfect.
So, but I feel confident. I mean, I looked at that because I had the same question: is okay, where is this going to be? Are they going to be bumped really, really high? But no, we're not. I mean, we're taking out the time that I do for planning and really replacing it with someone that does charge less and is providing more hours. And a lot of it comes down to, the chargebacks for people that come in, that come in here. So.
And that's still the same, the applicants.
That's still the
Those-
same.
This is all
Yep.
will get passed on to the applicant for things.
Okay.
So I look for a motion to approve the planning services agreement. I'm very comfortable with it. Sounds like
A
Supervisor.
motion to approve the planning services let's see, the exact name is from Amy's company.
Planning and Zoning LLC.
LLC, I remember reading it someplace.
Second the motion.
Thank you.
Motion is second to approve the contract dated July 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2026. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the budget is the amendment, is consideration of an amended agreement for engineering and IT services for 2025 for R.A. Smith.
Thank you, Amy. Look forward to working with you, or Rebecca, I should say.
Sounds like we hit on the important parts.
Yeah.
Can I make one other
Sure, you-
comment about what's happening here a little bit? And I should have said that before, but the contract you just approved was starting July 1st. I'm actually retiring from R.E. Smith on May 2nd, so-called retiring. So I won't go back there to do any other work, but I have agreed to stay on as an hourly employee at R.E. Smith, but just to come out here and do planning work. So the May Plan Commission, the June Plan Commission, I would be basically done June 20th. because after that, I'm going to an event that first that weekend right after the 20th, and then to Hawaii until July. So I'm out of the area and not available. So I want to help out. I want to leave well. That continuity will be, I'll still be around, do my office hours, help people out for those plan commission meetings. And then there will be an engineer, this Dave Ryder, who will do the engineering. I mean, we're in the midst of the road program, which we'll talk about later, and what other engineering reviews. He will do that. I've been mentoring him through that. So that's kind of the way it's kind of worked. Just so you'll still see me around for the next, it's like 2 more months. So just so you know that. But that's kind of all in the contract you're going to see now is really July 1st, but we're just we're keeping the current contract up until that time. So, yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd look for a motion to approve the amended contract with R.A. Smith for the,
Motion to approve amended agreement for engineering and IT services for 2025 with R.A. Smith.
Second.
motion a second to approve the amended contract with R.A. Smith for engineering and IT services. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item, consideration of options for the town website.
So I know that last year in 2024, Dan had brought forth the idea, I believe, to upgrade the website in some capacity. There's an outline there between 2 different website providers that specialize in government websites. We could either keep what we currently have, which is, as of I believe sometime in February, the system that holds our website is no longer servicing the security or upgrades. We could upgrade with this particular company at an increased cost, or we could go with a different company for the website, which overall would, over a course of 5 years, looks like it would reduce our cost per year. I'm leaning towards the new company and the new website overall. Their security is really a concern, like them having security is really important to me, and the security we have right now is very much a concern of mine with our current website. It also has the advanced analytics that Ed was talking about, seeing who's using our website, what they're clicking on, what the traffic is for us, and how we can engage with some of our residents more. The only downside of going to this other third party for the website is that I would need some training because I have not used this particular platform before, but they assure me that it's user friendly. There's other communities in the area that use it, and I would be able to ask questions to them if for some reason Revise was not either understanding or available to take my questions. So I'm looking for your questions on the website if you have any.
You have to do a 5-year contract.
It would be cost effective to do a 5-year contract. Yeah, that's usually the standard. Because it takes you however long to get it up and running. So you don't want to do something like a year or 2 out of it. Go ahead.
Is it the idea that you will be able to do an update? You're all of a sudden like, this is what we want to put on right now. You're going to do it, or will you have to work with them to do it?
So I currently do it right now.
Okay.
And I will be able to continue doing it here in real time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't need to necessarily contact them and wait for them to do it. Okay,
Correct.
Yeah, no, there wouldn't be a third party to have to do stuff. She'd be able to, or whoever's authorized for the town to update the website will be able to update the website.
Can you explain ADA compliance?
With the
website.
website, sure. So when you go onto a website, you might see the little blue Peruvian man in the corner, typically in a government website. That allows people to make it larger, smaller, contrast the color, have it go to, listen to it. There are websites like ours currently that doesn't automatically force our material into an ADA compliant format. So if someone wants to listen to it, there's a lot of breaks, there's a lot of all that. This will do it for us automatically.
Is there a significant downside in going with this company over the
It's
$20,000
not. That's why I
more.
actually had a recommendation for this one and
Yeah.
not, you know,
No,
but yeah.
This company has
sounds pretty
been
good.
very, very responsive. Unfortunately, our current provider has been less than responsive and less than wanting to continue our business with them. So I would concur with Administrator Lukey's recommendation for option 3 to upgrade the website and move to the new provider.
Maybe find out if there's a penalty if you do break the contract.
Yes, so I looked at our Civic Plus contract. It's not very well written, so we could get out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times what happens is we don't know what's going to happen even with the new company in 5 years. They may get gobbled up by somebody bigger, the rules change, and
Sure.
you may want out in 3 or 4 years, not, you know, or they come with a new cost structure.
Right.
So, but otherwise, sounds great.
And again, what's the name of the new company?
Revise. I think the city of Waukesha currently uses them, if memory serves.
So is your question, Supervisor Berkowitz, that like for the new thing, to ask Revise, what if after 3-4 years they get bought out? And is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I wouldn't
to find
phrase
out?
it that way. I would just simply ask,
What
what
happens
is,
if we break it?
yeah, what happens if we need to break the contract
Okay.
for whatever reason? Just simple. Just so we know what the downside is if we need to get out and have a new provider.
From the look of it, it looks more professional. Just my quick feedback for you.
So it looks like they've got about an $8,000 web design, and then it's the maintenance.
They do allow payment plans, which makes it more manageable.
So even assuming no changes, which we know things change, certainly in tech, but assuming no major changes, right, at a renewal of a 5th-year contract, we're now also not going to need a redesign, portion, right?
With Revise.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And so, I mean, the chunk of this, I mean, half of this contract is on the initial setup and design. Okay, well, great.
They would try and take, some of our existing items and kind of make it as seamless of a transition as possible, from what I understand, while trimming the fat off of some of the things, broken links, things that aren't used, et cetera.
They're doing the whole setup. And
Right.
where are they again? Where are they located? Just out of curiosity.
Well, that I don't know.
I think they're in the Michigan area.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
right, Troy, East Troy. I
Yeah.
did see that, yep.
Yeah.
So they will do that for
Yep.
us. Okay.
Great.
I just look at the amount of people that also, we didn't try locally. I know it's kind of a unique thing, so
Right.
this is just what we came up with.
Yeah, if we did something through like, one of those ones where you can design it yourself and so forth, that doesn't have that ADA piece and it doesn't have those extra layers of security on there either.
Well,
So
we're just giving you direction. We don't actually have a contract to.
we do not have a contract. This is a budget item, but I would really
We're just
love.
looking for a motion to
Are you looking for
provide
a motion
direction and
tonight,
then,
though?
Yes.
because we'd still have to approve a contract at some point, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So we're motioning for you to pursue obtaining a contract to work with Revise Platforms for our new Town of Delafield.
And I would bring the contract to the next meeting, the full contract. Yep.
So that's my motion.
the motion?
That's the motion.
Second.
Okay.
Motion is second to start working and negotiating a contract with the Revise to be approved at a future town board meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next item, item D, consideration of an ordinance to amend section 7.05, 2 of the town municipal code regarding vehicle weight limits. This is just updating the
Yeah,
weight,
so
right?
we actually had it wrong, and it's funny because my husband was the one that originally had asked me about it, because I think our signs say 6 tons, but our code said 6,000 pounds, and 6,000 pounds is even, Suburban is more than 6,000 pounds. So we need to change our code to reflect what we're actually advertising for, which is what other municipalities in the area are advertising for, which is 6 tons or 12,000 pounds. So I just wanted to get that correction into the code so that we weren't misrepresenting what we are trying to attain. He caught that. And then I asked Don about it, and he was like, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay. So, yeah.
So have we had any, I'm familiar with complaints,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, about this particular issue. So have we backtracked and reversed any decisions on anything because of the confusion of the code?
No, nobody was actually looking at the code. They were just looking at the signs. We want to make the code match what we've been enforcing. So,
Yeah, you wouldn't even be able to drive a boat on the road at 6,000 pounds.
No.
exactly. So,
Motion to approve
Thank
the
Amendment.
amendment to section 7.05, parent 2 of the Town Municipal Code regarding vehicle weight limits to correct to 12,000 pounds and 6 tons, not 6,000 pounds.
Second?
thank you.
A second to amend the ordinance for the weight limits for the municipal code. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes 5-0.
In regards to that, I know it's just, but just since we're discussing it, have we given any other thought to the complaints that we've received about how when someone does violate and they can't turn around? They've got to get past the sign before they can turn around. Let's just say they're driving and they're like, oh gosh, there's that sign, but there's nowhere to turn around. That was one of the complaints that I know that came in, is that, if you did see the sign, you can't safely turn around until you get past it, and that's where the police was that pulled them over and ticketed them.
So we have our signs placed on like county roads coming in and leave, coming into the town. So county roads don't have weight limits on them, so they are really limited. Like when they're on the county road, they should just stay on the county road and not turn onto a town road. So there's no turning around necessarily. I mean, there's just like rerouting using county road.
I'm just thinking about the particular complaint we received about the delivery, how so
Yeah.
they started off good, and then they had to get to where it was not.
They should not have turned off the county road.
Yeah, they should have
seeing
continued on the county
signs
road.
there.
If they've seen the sign, they shouldn't have turned and,
Yeah.
or they should have turned around right away and, figured it out or called the highway department and figured it out. So, because we have weight limits to protect the integrity of our roads, which are very expensive, as we're gonna, have the next agenda item, I believe, so. Which is item 9E, the consideration of approving and authorizing application and resolution to the Wisconsin Board of Commissioners of Public Lands for a $250,000 loan to help finance roadway improvements as outlined in the 2025 Town of Delafield budget.
So this is $250,000 that we use for our road improvement. We have taken it out for the last several years. If you decide to approve this tonight, somebody would have to read the preamble that is actually in Supervisor Wolfley's hands. And then we would take a roll call vote on it to submit the finalized roll call approval to the board.
Yeah, so this was a policy discussion, or a policy decision that the board made several years ago to help improve and accelerate our road program, to borrow the money at fairly favorable interest rates to continue maintaining the roads for our town residents. And it was in the budget that was approved, so. I'd look for a motion if there are no questions from Supervisor Wolfley.
Accept the motion,
Yep.
Supervisor Wolfley.
So you can read
Just read the whole
the
thing.
whole thing, and then at the end, you'll do your motion.
Perfect.
Great.
Following preamble and resolutions presented by Supervisor Joe Wolfley and read to the meeting. By the provisions of Section 24.66 of the Wisconsin statutes, all municipalities may borrow money for such purposes in the manner prescribed, and by the provisions of Chapter 24 of the Wisconsin statutes of the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands of Wisconsin is authorized to make loans from the state trust funds to municipalities for such purposes. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Delafield and the counties of Waukesha, Wisconsin borrow from the trust funds of the state of Wisconsin in the sum of $250,000 for the purpose of financing road work for no other purpose. The loan is to be payable within 5 years from the 15th day of March preceding the date the loan is made. The loan will be repaid in annual installments with interest rates of 5.5% per annum from the date making the loan to the 15th day of March next, and thereafter annually as provided by law. Resolved further, that there shall be raised and there is levied upon all taxable property within the town of Delafield and the counties of Waukesha, Wisconsin, a direct annual tax for the purpose of paying interest and principal on the loan as they become due. Resolved further, that no money obtained by the town of Delafield by such loan from the state be applied or paid out for any purpose except financing road work without the consent of the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands. Resolved further, that in the case the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands of Wisconsin agrees to make the loan, that the chairman and clerk of the town of Delafield and the counties of Waukesha, Wisconsin are authorized and empowered in the name of the town to execute and deliver to the commission certificates of indebtedness in such form as required by the commission for any sum of money that may be loaned to the town pursuant to this resolution. The chairman and clerk of the town will perform all necessary actions to fully carry out the provisions of Chapter 24 Wisconsin statutes and these resolutions. Resolve further that this preamble in these resolutions and the aye and no vote by which they were adopted be recorded, and that the clerk of the town forward this certificate record along with the application for the loan to the Board of Commissioners for the Public Lands of Wisconsin. And I, Supervisor Joe Wolfley, move to the adoption of the foregoing preamble and resolutions.
Second?
Motion and a second on the motion. If you please call the roll.
Supervisor Mahoney-Acton,
Aye.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Supervisor Wolfley,
Aye.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Aye.
Chairman Kranek.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Next item is consideration for an approval of a construction contract for the 2025 guardrail installation project. Engineer Barbeau.
All right, as part of our annual road program, one of the items that we wanted to address was a guardrail that's going to be along the north side of Bryn Drive, just west of Elmhurst, Highway G. We repaved that one last year, but this has been kind of a project that I've talked about for years with Donnie. Bryn Drive we've really not had any accidents where people have gone off and rolled down the hills that we have there, but I've often said that, that's not a good situation there. It's never been a good situation. So since we paved it, it's newly paved from last year. We said, let's get some costs for that. So I got some, it was publicly bid, but I actually identified 6 firms, construction companies that said that they did guardrails. I sent them out the bid notice, and the reality is we got one bid from that company, RB3. It's out of Sullivan, and it's basically a company that this gentleman, Richard Bach, actually, he owns it, he runs it. He actually worked 25 years for another company that's like one of the largest guardrail companies in Wisconsin that's kind of got a couple, I think they have a place in Kaukauna, I'm thinking, and then somewhere central Wisconsin that he worked for. And so he hasn't done it, his company hasn't done guardrail that he has right now, but he has done it for 25 years. All the guardrail that's on Highway 16 between Oconomowoc and Pewaukee, I guess it was Pewaukee. When they redid 16 years ago, he did all that guardrail as part of the part. So he's got the experience to do it. Don knew this guy, has worked with him doing other work and guardrail work. So we're recommending that we accept the bid. It's a little higher than we thought it was going to be. Partly, I think was we were looking at the bid cost for what the DOT gets for bid cost, which is usually high volume, large projects, and so they get pretty good pricing for that. So, but the recommendation is to accept the bid of RB3 Incorporated for $56,570. And everything would be in order. The budget, what we did is we just have the large road program budget, and then that would come out of part of that. And we can talk about that road program budget after this one.
So can you repeat, you said you sent it out to 6 people, not just to Payne and Dolan and Wolf, you sent it out to 6 others? and
Nope,
only
this
heard-
is just for the guardrail.
Oh, okay, I was just. I
Just for the
missed that.
guardrail, because it's kind of more of a specialty. So like Payne and Dolan or Wolf, they don't do it. They would get a subcontractor to do it.
No, I meant, just for the guardrail, you sent it out to 6 people.
Yeah,
and
just
only
for
heard
the
back from
guardrail.
one.
Pardon?
And only heard back from one? Is that?
Yep.
Okay, and that's probably because the scope of it is so small, most people don't want to mess with it, I'm guessing? But it doesn't sound like
It's a
it's
good
that small.
question. There was one other person that I talked to, and they said, we're looking at it, but, you know, they didn't seem too enthusiastic about it, and I think that a lot of those firms want to just be a subcontractor to a DOT contract that gets, you know, the contracts are huge. you know.
Yeah, that's what, okay, so.
They're probably putting in, you know, $1 million worth of guardrail in some of the stuff, so. But there're just not that many around, seems like.
I'm just trying to, okay, so it's on Bryn, just because we just got this tonight. So it's on Bryn, obviously I know that well, and you said it's west of Elmhurst.
Yeah,
And then it's on the north or the south side of
on the
Bryn?
north side,
The north side,
yep.
okay. I do that regularly, I like to drive that way, I'm just trying to think, so, dumb question. Are we doing it because it's scary? I mean, I'm just trying to think of why we're doing it. I
Well,
haven't ever
we're
driven
doing
there
it
and
for,
going, thinking.
clearly for safety reasons.
So people don't just
If,
go,
if a car would go off, if you're going off of Elmhurst, going up the hill, and you go off, there's no recovery area. You know, there's no, it drops off very quickly.
it's a hard turn, it's a
Yeah,
definitely
but
Elmhurst, it's, yeah.
And we really haven't had any accidents there, but if a car went off and got off the shoulder and, you know, it would probably roll down, not flip, but it would roll down, because if we were to try to make that where a car could recover, we'd probably have to go a couple hundred feet out into the
pasture.
the pasture
Yeah.
to get a slope where they can recover and come back up.
Okay, which you don't want to do that
So,
either.
so this one
Yeah.
is mainly a safety issue. It's been a safety issue forever.
Okay,
And there are other ones on Bryn Drive and other places that are similar, I'll say, but, you know, like I say, we haven't had accidents there, but this one we just identified as one that we wanted to get done, because I would say it's the most challenging spot for that to happen.
in the whole town, obviously, right? It sounds like if that's the one that we're doing.
I don't know every place in the whole town, but I would say that we have some places that have pretty steep slopes off the road pretty quickly. And some have trees right next to them, so that maybe it stops the car from getting down too far, but
Or kills the person, which we had the young man who was killed on Bryn Drive a few years ago, right, at that tree.
on where?
On Bryn,
Oh, yeah. They hit the tree though, right?
the tree.
Yeah.
Right there, just up the road,
And Donnie won't take the tree down, so,
yeah. Okay. Well, it slows people too. I mean, there's something to be said, it does slow you
Yeah.
down, slow you up. It's such a
Yep.
pretty area. I understand the safety. I do think it's a beautiful corner and it's, I'll go back and look a little closer. I'm agreeing if everybody else thinks it's a good idea.
Yep.
That, I'm just trying to, I drive it regularly. I've never felt like, oh, I need to have a guardrail there, but if you say.
But yeah, I mean, it was part of the budget. I mean,
Right.
part of the budget, obviously, it seems like it's an important piece that needs to be addressed, so it's a little bit more than what was budgeted for, but sounds like the funds are there and part of the,
Yeah, at the end of the day.
we just did, so.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we'll make the math work, so
So if it's been like this always, and again, I haven't been to, but so when we did repave, you know, when the repaving was done, at least I can speak to other roads, it's significant than what it used to be. Like Oakton is a good example now. So I'm just thinking, is that what happened at Bryn? This makes it worse. The pitch, you know, where it used to just be, it was even. Now it's in many,
well,
it's
it's just,
actually, that's
the road was
dangerous.
narrow and we tried to widen it a little bit more to make it a little bit safer. But as we widen it, then we put on shoulders. And then, I mean, after the shoulders, then it just drops off because the shoulders made it wider. And a lot of places we don't put in shoulders.
Yeah, I just think, I think the shoulders are actually a little unsafe, just seeing people walking there.
Well,
And then you got to get off the road and it's just, there's nowhere to go except
Yeah.
for just, boom.
we're a town
Glad
that
glad we'll have a
doesn't
guardrail.
do shoulders, though.
From town, what?
We usually don't put in shoulders, like gravel shoulders. We only do those on the main roads.
right.
It's not on.
So
we
the
don't-
drop is the,
It's just the geography and the topography of the situation. It's beautiful, but at the end of the day, you know, we do have a responsibility to,
safety first.
for the safety of these, you know, individuals, and, you know, knock on wood, nothing bad has happened, at this, you know, particular spot, but it's been, you know, issue that's been highlighted for a while, and, Donnie and Tim have wanted to, take care of it, and we have the money in the budget, and we budgeted for it, so I would look for a motion to approve the bid, and let's get the work done.
Motion to approve the bid from RB3 Inc. for the construction contract for the guardrail installation on Bryn Drive, west of County Highway G.
A second.
Motion and second to approve the bid to RB3 Inc. In the amount of $56,570. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item is consideration and approval of a construction contract for the 2025 Road Improvement Program. Engineer Barbeau.
All right, so we got two bids, Wolf and Payne and Dolan, which is common. We have them every year, it seems like. The way the budget goes is there's $560,000 in the budget. We typically set aside $30,000 for Donnie to do some miscellaneous road work and crack filling and patching and other things that he uses that for the year that he wants to hold in case something comes up. If you take that, also subtract out the guardrail project, we end up with about 530,000? No. We take out 530,000 and then we take the other one, I don't have the number. But anyway, bottom line is if we take Payne and Dolan's number as the low bidder plus adding the guardrail in it, we are below that 530,000 mark that we shoot for.
We're about 570 when you take out the 56.
Pardon?
You're at about 470.
470, yeah.
470, so-
yep. Yep. And we're at 467. I will say this, is that, I mean, as Michelle can tell you, I was very pleased with these prices. These are great prices from Payne and Dolan. Wolf is pretty high this year, which is a little bit shocking. Usually they're very competitive, so, and sometimes they get it, but Payne and Dolan was low by quite a bit there, I would say. I mean, for us, when you look at, $33,000 lower, that's a good price for us, so.
Yeah.
But we've worked with Payne and Dolan, we're happy with them, they're well qualified. The people that we work with, Donnie and I work with, their project manager understands what Donnie likes and how we do things around here, so that's a positive. So we recommend that you accept the bid, the low bid of Payne and Dolan.
Motion to approve construction contract for the 2025 Road Improvement Program submitted by Payne and Dolan in the amount of the total bid of $467,578.50.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the bid for the road improvement project, award the contract to Payne and Dolan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The contract's awarded to Payne and Dolan 5-0. Announcements of planning items. Town Board annual meeting is required by statute next Tuesday, tax day, April 15th, here at 6:30. There will be a Town Board meeting on Tuesday, April 22nd at 6:30 PM.
I'm not gonna be here for that.
Okay.
We are hosting the Waukesha County, Wisconsin Towns County Unit meeting here on Wednesday, April 23rd at 6:30. We will have John Koskinen from the Department of Revenue, Chief Economist, to talk to us about what's happening in the state of Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Towns Association Town Advocacy Council is hosting their Capitol Day on Wednesday, April 30th at the state capitol. Details are on the WTA website. And in the magazine, there will be a Town Plan Commission on Tuesday, May 6th at 6:30, and the next item would be a motion to adjourn.
Is the unit meeting going to be Sharon Lear's last,
Yes.
that's her like last unit meeting? and
It's her
then-
last,
and last
it's her last unit meeting as chair,
chair of the unit, okay.
because she's no longer going to be town chair, given the election and the fact that she didn't run for election, but she still will be involved as a district director through August.
WTA or-
So, yeah, through the WTA, so, but yeah, so it's going to be kind of a big meeting, given that it's Sharon's last meeting.
Yes.
And her contributions to the WTA and to the county, and to the towns.
And I know I had asked and offered that we've got it covered with, I mean, I know I've attended some of these, and they all do it a little different in terms of some things is very homemade, and some things is just all bought, so we've got it to treat our people nicely, our guests coming, we've got it done. We don't need us to help do anything.
Yeah, we don't have to, we're not going to have a bake sale or anything, so we're good. I think we've got it covered. And I just, if you're in town and able to attend, it would be good to have good attendance to this meeting. So I would appreciate it, and I'll ask to have a quorum notice posted for that meeting, so.
Motion to adjourn.
Turn.
Second, and motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned 5-0.
7:57.
Oh, yeah,